The cerebellum, often referred to as the brain's little brain, is a fascinating structure located at the back of our skull. It plays a crucial role in coordinating movement and balance. Imagine trying to ride a bike or play a musical instrument. That's the cerebellum at work, fine-tuning our motor skills and ensuring smooth execution. It's not just about movement, though. The cerebellum also contributes to cognitive functions, like attention and language. It processes sensory information, helping us make sense of our environment. Interestingly, it contains more neurons than the rest of the brain combined, highlighting its importance. Damage to the cerebellum can lead to ataxia, a condition that disrupts coordination, making simple tasks challenging. This little powerhouse is essential for our everyday activities, from walking to dancing. So, the next time you perform a complex task, remember the incredible work your cerebellum is doing behind the scenes, orchestrating every move with precision. The cerebellum is a complex structure located at the base of the brain, responsible for coordinating movement, balance, and posture. It has two hemispheres, similar to the cerebrum. The outer layer, known as the cerebellar cortex, processes sensory information, while the inner layer, the deep cerebellar nuclei, integrates motor information. The cerebellar peduncles connect the cerebellum to the brainstem and spinal cord. Its functions include regulating movement, balance, and posture, as well as being involved in motor learning and memory. It maintains balance and coordination, regulates body position and orientation, and coordinates eye movements. The anterior lobe coordinates leg movements. The posterior lobe coordinates arm and hand movements. And the flocculonodular lobe regulates balance and equilibrium. Damage to the cerebellum can result in ataxia, which is a loss of coordination and balance, dysarthria, which involves speech difficulties, dysmetria, which is impaired movement and coordination, cerebellar atrophy, which is the degeneration of cerebellar tissue, and cerebellar stroke, which is damage to cerebellar tissue due to lack of blood flow. Disorders associated with the cerebellum include cerebellar degeneration, spinocerebellar ataxia, Friedreich's ataxia, and cerebellar hypoplasia. Interesting facts about the cerebellum include that it contains 69% of the brain's neurons, processes 40% of the brain's sensory information, and that cerebellar damage can affect cognitive function. The cerebellum is also involved in learning new skills. Clinical applications related to the cerebellum include neuroimaging techniques like MRI and CT scans, neurosurgery for cerebellar disorders, physical therapy for rehabilitation of cerebellar-related movement disorders, and cognitive training to improve cognitive function and brain plasticity. The human brain is a marvel of complexity, divided into several key parts, each with its own unique functions. Let's start with the cerebrum, the largest part, responsible for higher brain functions like thinking, learning, and memory. It's divided into two hemispheres, each controlling the opposite side of the body. The left hemisphere is often linked to logic and analytical thinking, while the right is associated with creativity and intuition. Next, we have the cerebellum, located at the back of the brain. This small but mighty region coordinates movement and balance, ensuring we can walk, run, and even dance without stumbling. Then there's the brainstem, which connects the brain to the spinal cord. It controls vital functions like breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure, essentially keeping us alive without us even thinking about it. Don't forget the limbic system, often called the emotional brain. It includes structures like the amygdala, which processes emotions, and the hippocampus, crucial for forming new memories. This is where our feelings and memories intertwine, influencing our behavior and decisions. Lastly, the thalamus acts as the brain's relay station, directing sensory information to the appropriate areas for processing. Each part of the brain works in harmony, creating the intricate tapestry of human experience, from our thoughts and emotions to our movements and memories. Understanding these parts not only fascinates us, but also highlights the incredible capabilities of our minds. Here are the main parts of the human brain: cerebrum, frontal lobe, decision-making, problem-solving, motor control; parietal lobe, sensory processing, spatial awareness; temporal lobe, auditory processing, memory; occipital lobe, visual processing; cerebellum, coordinates movement, balance, and posture; brainstem, midbrain, auditory and visual processing; pons, sleep, arousal, and swallowing; medulla, oblongata, breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure; other structures: hippocampus, memory formation; amygdala, emotional processing; hypothalamus, body temperature regulation, hunger and thirst; thalamus, sensory relay; basal ganglia, movement control; corpus callosum, connects left and right hemispheres; lobes of the cerebrum, frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex, PFC, decision-making; primary motor cortex, voluntary movement; parietal lobe, primary somatosensory cortex, touch and spatial awareness; association cortex, integrates sensory information; temporal lobe, primary auditory cortex, hearing; Wernicke's area, language processing; occipital lobe, primary visual cortex, vision; deep brain structures, brainstem, cerebellum, hippocampus, amygdala, hypothalamus, thalamus, basal ganglia; functional areas: motor cortex, voluntary movement; sensory cortex, sensory processing, association; cortex, integrates information; limbic system, emotions and motivation; language areas: Broca's area, Wernicke's area. Would you like more information on a specific part of the brain? The cerebrum is the largest part of the human brain, responsible for our thoughts, actions, and emotions. It's divided into two hemispheres, each controlling the opposite side of the body. The outer layer, called the cerebral cortex, is where the magic happens. It's packed with neurons that help us process information, make decisions, and even dream. Within the cerebrum, we find 4 key lobes. The frontal lobe, which governs our reasoning and problem solving; the parietal lobe, responsible for sensory perception; the occipital lobe, dedicated to vision; and the temporal lobe, which plays a crucial role in hearing and memory. Did you know that the cerebrum is also involved in regulating emotions? The limbic system, nestled deep within, interacts with the cerebrum to influence our feelings and behaviors. This complex organ is not just a control center. It's a hub of creativity and imagination, allowing us to create art, music, and literature. In essence, the cerebrum is what makes us uniquely human, enabling us to think critically, empathize with others, and navigate the world around us. It's a fascinating blend of biology and consciousness, constantly evolving as we learn and grow. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, accounting for approximately 85% of its total weight. It's divided into two hemispheres, left and right, and controls various higher-level functions. The left hemisphere is logical, analytical, and language processing, while the right hemisphere is intuitive, creative, and spatial processing. The cerebral cortex is the outer layer, responsible for processing sensory information, and the white matter is the inner layer, consisting of nerve fibers. The frontal lobe includes the prefrontal cortex for decision-making and problem-solving, the primary motor cortex for voluntary movement, and Broca's area for language processing. The parietal lobe contains the primary somatosensory cortex for touch and spatial awareness, as well as the association cortex that integrates sensory information. The temporal lobe has the primary auditory cortex for hearing, Wernicke's area for language processing, and the hippocampus for memory formation. The occipital lobe is home to the primary visual cortex for vision. The functions of the cerebrum include sensory processing, which interprets sensory information from the environment, motor control, which coordinates voluntary movements, language processing, which understands and generates language, problem solving, which involves logical reasoning and decision-making, memory, which is the formation and retrieval of memories, emotions, which regulate emotional responses, and attention, which focuses on specific stimuli. Damage to the cerebrum can occur due to stroke, which causes damage to brain tissue due to lack of blood flow. Traumatic brain injury, TBI, which results in physical damage to brain tissue. Neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's. And brain tumors, which involve abnormal cell growth. Interesting facts about the cerebrum include that it contains 86 billion neurons. The cerebral cortex has 100 trillion synapses. The cerebrum uses 20% of the body's energy, and the left hemisphere processes language in 95% of right-handed individuals. Clinical applications related to the cerebrum include neuroimaging techniques like MRI, CT scans, and PET scans, neurosurgery for cerebrum-related disorders, neurostimulation methods such as deep brain stimulation and transcranial magnetic stimulation, and cognitive training to improve cognitive function and brain plasticity. Would you like more information on a specific aspect of the cerebrum?